everybody, and welcome back to the Black Lawyers Podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Emayatzy Corinealdi from Reasonable Doubt. How are you?
I am great. I'm great. Happy to be here, Jahan. Or should I call you Jahan? Or should I call you Jay?
You can call me, look, and you're pronouncing it so
I like Jahan.
beautifully.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Well, today is a special release because it's the season finale is this week, and so
Yes.
it's been this crazy game of who done it, which we'll get into a little bit later. But no, we're so excited that you were able to make time for us. We understand that you're promoting the show. The season is getting ready to end. But what better way to promote the season finale and get everybody to go and binge watch it with the Black Lawyers Podcast?
Absolutely.
You are a Black TV lawyer. I will say this before we jump into your questions. I appreciate the fact that I really see you as a lawyer on TV. There are some shows, and I know writers have their reasons why, but they don't really necessarily show the lawyers being lawyers. Like sometimes you
hmm
see them in the office, and maybe they're just like some quick cutaways. But I'm like, she could probably go to law school at this point. She's got like cross examination and evidence she's having to. So you are really getting some real training as a lawyer in this
hmm
role, and I think it's really cool that they show you in that light. So who were you before you became a Black TV lawyer?
I was a Black girl who thought she was going to be a lawyer to start. Yeah, I up to that point in high school, it was something I always enjoyed, on the debate teams. And I love the arguing, the debating. I just love that part of it. And from there, the interest started to build. And I had a girlfriend that I also met in high school who knew she wanted to be a lawyer. And so that was our plan. We had decided our firm name was going to be Corinealdi and Sweeney. This is what we were going to do. And by the time, it was time to graduate, she's really putting in the work. She's studying and all this kind of stuff and preparing in colleges. And I'm like, wait a minute now. I don't know if I really want to do this. And it thankfully it hit me before I decided to go off to law school and, would have wasted the money because I realized that I really just wanted to play the lawyer. I like the drama in the courtroom. I like the style, the fashion, you know what I mean? All of that. So that's where it kind of began for me, was the interest. But I really did up until that point. And I mean, from the time I was little, I just was attracted to law in some kind of way. So she did go on to become a lawyer, and here I am playing Jax. So that's kind of where there was that bit of interest for me. And so this brought it full circle, which was really, really great.
Very full circle.
Yes, very, very. But yeah, I'm an Army brat. My dad was in the Army. I was born in Kentucky. As soon as I was born, we moved to Ohio and then to Kansas and Jersey and Germany, and just all over the place. And that's kind of how I started. And then the interest in acting came very early as well, but I never thought of it as a career kind of thing. It was just an interest that I had. It was something fun to do. And so it kind of converged at the same time when I realized, you don't really want to be a lawyer. You really want to be an actress. And once that happened, I kind of geared everything towards that.
Well, it's funny. You answered my next question. What would you have been if you didn't become an actress? You would have been a lawyer. I didn't know that you had interest in the law. That's why I love these interviews. I never know what people are going to say. So I had no clue that prior to this role, you had interest in becoming.
Oh, okay.
You're just like Carrie. Her mom was like, LSAT book, MCAT book, you pick a book. And Carrie bought both books, and she was like, let me just try this acting thing.
Right.
Just let me try it. If it doesn't work, I promise I'll figure it out. So you and Carrie actually have somewhat of a similar.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me, because you'll actually find that a lot of actors have some kind of interest with law in some kind of way. And I think I put that together. There's something just with that, the debate of it all, the being in charge, they have similar elements to them, and I found that there's a lot of actors who wanted to be lawyers at some point. And I think that's why there's a lot of acting and being a lawyer as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which a lot of
Yes.
people learned on the show. Like you got to really have your case together, your act, what you gonna do, how you gonna say it. So they can be similar in that way.
Definitely, definitely. And of course, this is the Black Lawyers Podcast. We obviously interview real lawyers, TV lawyers like yourself, advocates. Are there any spaces in advocacy? Is there anything just in life that you're really passionate about? Any sort of causes?
Yeah, working with teenage girls, I have, what is it now? 17 nieces and nephews. And yes. And I just have always loved being an aunt. I love it. I now have a daughter, but from the time I was little, I've always had just a heart for girls, teenage girls, and all the things that we go through, as teenage girls, and just learning how to become young women and all of that. So early on here in my days of California and LA, I was involved with all kind of, groups. There was one Children of the Night. There's a girls mentoring group, working with girls who were living either in shelters or, just were homeless or what have you. So I've always had a soft spot for teenage girls, specifically Black teenage girls, because it can be a rough road. It can be a rough road.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, you were led to this role. Like you said, it was divine. Divine, your divine path to probably eventually play a Black TV
Mm-hmm.
lawyer. Quickly were you approached? Did your agent get a call like, there may be a role with a show with Ramala and Carrie? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did they approach you about this?
Pretty much like that. I had another offer in my hand at the time. There was another job. I was set to do it, ready to go. And my team said, "Oh, but you need to read this." And I said, "Well, why would I do that? I mean, I already have this over here." And I didn't want to read it, So some time went by and they were adamant, "You need to read this. We like that thing over there, but this is really what you should do. We just read it." And so finally I decided to read it. And my hesitancy was because it caught me at this point in my life where in my career where I was just tired of fighting. There's a lot of fight you have to do, to get the thing that you want. And there was just a moment where I was just tired. I'm like, I'm going to take this role. It's great. I can do something with this. I don't feel like having to go and fight for this. Um, but when I read it, that changed everything, and I said, okay, well, you're going to have to find it within you to go ahead and fight, because they weren't going to just give me this role. As Rama, has explained numerous times, everyone, this is a great role. It's similar to everything that happened with Carrie and Scandal. Everyone wanted that role. You know what I mean? Because we don't have a lot of these that come around. And so this was a similar situation. And so she wanted to make sure that she had the right person. And so I was going to have to find it within myself to go and fight for it, even though I had this other offer ready to go in my hand. It was work guaranteed, money guaranteed. And that's before even knowing where this was going to go. At this point, this is just a pilot. It's not even a season. It's just one episode. This other job, full seasons guaranteed.
Wow.
And so it was a big thing, and so I said, you know what, okay, this is the kind of role I can see me really sinking my teeth into. And then all the creatives behind it made it even more interesting. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. And that was that.
Here we are. It's so crazy because I don't, I can't, I know a lot of obviously actresses. I love them all, but I don't see anybody else playing this role but you. I don't know if I mean, I've been a fan from the beginning when the show first hit Hulu,
Mhm.
because I'm just always like looking, because I mean, I love my reality TV, but I'm always looking for something good and scripted.
Yes.
So I was an early fan of the show, and I was telling you, y'all should watch Reasonable Doubt. You should watch Reasonable
Mhm.
Doubt. So I don't see anybody else. Yeah, I can't see anybody else playing the role. I think it was just meant, shout out to your team for making you read it
Yes.
and making you take that leap, because I understand as an actress, if you have something paid on the table and there's money and you don't you're kind of as good as your last role, how that could feel. and taking a risk with this. But yeah, sometimes things just have a way of.
Yeah, and that's why, just a little side note, that's why it is so good to surround yourself with people who believe in you, who, on those days when you're down on yourself, they can be there to lift you up, because that's what you need. And that was what that moment was for me. I always knew I had a great team, but that showed me even more, because they had guaranteed money over there, you know what I mean? And they were willing to let that go because they knew this would be better for me in the long run. So, shout out to the team.
Well, speaking of the team, you actually have a team of so many Black women behind you: Ramala, Carrie, Sean. How
Yes.
is it to know that you're on a show and able
Ugh.
to have?
I mean, it is really just it just leaves me speechless. If there was an opportunity to play this kind of character who's as complex and flawed and just beautiful and all of those things, and to have that kind of character on this kind of show, and it be surrounded by this caliber of women, I mean, I couldn't even have asked for that. I'm a big you know a dreamer, and I write my dreams out and I write my plans out, and I'm always on myself about my goals and things like that. I couldn't have written this in this way, so it really has been such a wonderful, wonderful experience, a fantastic opportunity. And I've made some friendships that are going to last, way beyond all of this, and that's the good part.
Well, people are so tired of me saying the statistic, but less than 5% of Black lawyers are Black in the US. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if you knew that that was the percentage when you joined, but you represent the unicorn of the profession because Black women are less than 2.5%. So the number gets even smaller.
Mhm.
Obviously, there have been some wonderful Black TV lawyers on TV. Um, what do you think about being literally the physical manifestation of that statistic?
Hmm. Um, well, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's just such a sad statistic that that's even the case. You know what I mean? Because it just speaks to all of the unfortunate circumstances that we find ourselves in, just as Black men, Black women. And if we had more people who were able to represent us in those, situations, we would have a better outcome. I really believe that. And so that's why when I hear about people becoming lawyers, there was someone else on Twitter who just said that they just passed the bar and they were on their way. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, there's another one. We need so many more. But it really just is a very sad statistic at the end of the day. This country has how many people, and the fact that it's like there's a few different things that can happen that allow that statistic to be, other than what we know for sure, is what it is. But if people aren't aware of the opportunities, if people don't see it enough, whether it be on television or that within their own families, what have you, but just knowing that you can do it, it can be done, and having the right kind of opportunities, that those are the kinds of things that I would hope something like this show will make people say, hey, you know what, I want to give that a try, because as we all know, I remember um, conversations happening when Scandal was out and people saying, I want to go and be a lawyer because of living, you know what I mean? Like that's what you want to happen. So if this show could, allow that kind of conversation to happen, then that would be wonderful.
Well, it's already happening. So your dream is coming true. Definitely. I definitely think you're inspiring some people to go to law school. As I mentioned before, there are some Black TV lawyers before you. Of course, Claire Huxtable, Olivia Pope, Annalise Keating,
Yeah.
Yvonne Orji, the list goes on and on. Did you pull from any of those, or did you say, I'm just going to make Jax my own? Or did you take any notes from any of these previous Black TV lawyers?
There was nothing, there wasn't a tangible, okay, I'm gonna do this kind of thing. But as a Black woman who has watched all of these, Black women TV lawyers before, it's already there. You know what I mean? I know these characters within me. So if anything, it just gave me fuel to say, okay, I know all of them. I've loved what they've done, and now this is my opportunity to put my spin on something. A character that's going to be totally different from any of those. So that's kind of how it came about. I didn't even need to think about it because it's just there. I'm a watcher of all of those women as well, so it naturally was just in me. But the desire to take this opportunity and do something totally different with it was kind of reigned supreme.
Absolutely. Is there any real life law things you learned? Because you said you were going to go to law school, you didn't, but you became this Black TV actress.
Mm-hmm.
So has there anything you've actually learned about the law playing this role? Because you're a criminal defense attorney. So
Yeah.
did you learn what's one example of a real life thing you've learned?
Well, one thing would be, the way these cases are put together, the way you have the prosecutor who really they have their own, they can have their own motives and things like that. And the way they built these cases, and I think that our show is a perfect example. This woman has her own history with someone that seems to be coming into play. The prosecutor in our show, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name? But yeah, so the prosecutor in our show, and it's like you can have this whole backstory, and they can allow different factors to influence how they're going to build their case, and sometimes not paying attention to the actual facts that are there. And of course, that can go both ways on the defense side as well. But when it comes to the prosecutor's angle, I was able to see a bit more firsthand how this plays out into real life cases. You wonder, well, how did that happen, or why didn't that happen? When you see the different levels of weight that are placed on particular aspects of the case, and I saw how that came into play, and that was something that I was able to. It allowed me to really apply that to the cases I've thought about in the past. As to, wow, how does he even get off on that? You know what I mean? And now it answered a lot of those questions. So I did do a lot of watching trials that were happening at the time, before we started filming, and in between the seasons, things that were happening, to see kind of how things played out, and those things helped me, also in informing the character.
What's the easiest, or not the easiest, what's the funnest part about playing Jax, and what's maybe the hardest part that people may not know?
The most fun part about playing Jax is there's so many things. The one that's popped into my mind is that she really is so unapologetically herself, for better or for worse. Whether it's that she smokes, whether it's that she slept with the security guard, whether it's that she just makes these choices that you probably wouldn't want to do in your everyday life, but there are people who do. And it's fun to play that out, because it is so far from me. It's fun to just kind of live in that world of someone who's making these choices and living in this way, and dealing with the repercussions of that at times. And you said the easiest part?
The well, you answered like the fun part, but like what
Yeah.
is maybe something
Oh, the
difficult?
heart. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The difficult part is it might be the same thing, because when I think about her and this baby and this whole situation and the way that played out and how
Oh, my mouth. When I tell you my mouth
listen,
dropped, I said, oh Lord, I felt like coming through that TV screen. I think every woman felt that pain and that scene. It
yes,
was it was a very hard scene to watch. It was a
very,
hard.
very, very, and that was
Yeah.
difficult for me because Emayatzy would have handled that very differently from Jax, and I think, and I have to add, I think, because I also don't believe that Jax would have handled that same situation um, the way she did now if it were first season. There's been so much that has happened, so much trauma, so much growth, so much intention in trying to be better, that I think we actively got to see her trying in that scene. So I don't even know, I don't think she would have made the same decision. But yeah, I don't think that I would have, and again, I have to add the caveat, because that's the one thing I love about acting. I just have to add, because it's you really get to explore humanity, and you get to have this idea of what you think you would do and what you wouldn't do. But we all have it within us. We all have it within us. We can kill someone, we can lift them up at the flip of a switch. All of us can do either of those things. So that's why it's difficult to say I wouldn't. But, all of my girlfriends and all of us, when we're watching that scene, my one girlfriend said, the moment he came in that door, I would have just called 911 on myself, because that that would have been it. They would have had to come and get him up off the floor. You know
I
what I mean?
know.
So
I
I
know. I
get
love
it.
that. I
I
love
get it.
that.
I get it.
I love that. Well, speaking of scenes, which I know there are a lot, but is there a scene or two from either season that you had the most fun doing? Like, what has been like a favorite scene of yours that you're
Mm.
like, this was a really good shoot day. I like this.
Oh, there were so many of those. What's coming to mind first is shooting the flashback scenes in episode 7, when we did the wedding, and how Jackson and Lewis really came together. It was just such a beautiful day in this park here in LA, Leimert Park, which is a popular area out here. Just super black, pro black, and there's this beautiful park. And this particular part of the park I'd never been to. I didn't even know that there was a bridge and a creek, and it just was so sweet. The perfect backdrop for the scene that we were filming, and you would have thought we were having a real wedding that day. Everyone had the wedding energy, the wedding vibes, and it was a really, really great shoot day. So that would be one of my favorites, my recent favorites.
Okay. Speaking of some additional scenes, you mentioned, having to now deal with a blended family. You just talked about your TV husband having a child, what they call, I think they call them break babies. People take a break and then they end up getting people pregnant on break. It's a mess. This is why a lot of times I don't believe in taking no break, because things like this can happen.
Right.
You talk about that, but something also, and I don't know if it was by design, because I know Carrie is really big into mental health. There's a really big mental health theme in this second season, and
Mm-hmm.
lawyers in general, but I feel like definitely Black female lawyers, because you have the Black going against you, have the fact that you're a female going against you. You're carrying
Mm-hmm.
those two things on top of being a lawyer, that we are these overachievers, and there is a functional depression that they say overachieving women like this
Mm-hmm.
has. That you're functioning and everything seems like you're doing everything right, but you're almost like a functioning depression, someone that suffers from functioning depression.
Mm-hmm.
So we see a big theme. Is that something they really just wanted to have? Because I didn't really feel like it was obviously in the first season, but I just noticed the second season seemed to have emphasis on that mental health.
Yeah, that Ramla Muhammad, our showrunner creator, that was definitely a part of the storyline. We had to show what it would look like for a woman like Jax, who's used to being in control, who's used to just having things together, having experienced the kind of trauma that we saw in last season. We needed to see what that looked like coming into the second season. It couldn't just be, okay, it happened and now they're back together and we're just gonna just go. It couldn't have lasted just one episode. We needed to show her trying to deal with this. And I love that we did. I think that it was important. Ramla and I had a lot of conversations about that, what it would look like. And it also created a great opportunity to show vulnerability on her end, because we didn't see it to this degree in this way in the first season. We saw just power boss Jax. And so, because this has always been a very multi-layered, dynamic woman, we wanted to show the whole woman. And so that was definitely intentional. And that was the approach going into this season.
Say you are a mama, you have a daughter, and obviously you
Mm-hmm.
have two kids on the show. You have two TV kids. What do you think about the contradiction? And there's a scene where I just laugh, and I think the saying is, "Do what I say, but don't do what I do," or something like that. Where he's caught, I think, vaping or something, and he's like, "Well, mom smokes." What
Right.
did you think about like how in our, in your 30s and your 40s, you're still young, you're still doing things, but you may have children, you may not want them to be doing what you're doing. What are your thoughts on that dynamic of that relationship with
I
parents.
just love that because it was so, I remember my mom saying that to me about stuff. Just do what I say, not as I do. You know what I mean? I remember that. So that came from just a real place. What I love most about that particular dynamic with Jax and with Spencer is that it really created a beautiful opportunity to um, talk about not only that, but also just her trying to break the generational cycle of it all. You know what I mean? Just like I said, I've had that experience, and a lot of people, even on set, when I was talking to him, on set in character, people are like, "Oh my gosh, she's sounding like my mama." You know what I mean? Like everybody could just relate to that. And so I loved the opportunity to be able to see the full circle. Jax come back around and say and have that conversation with him, like, "Look, I don't want you to do this. You're right. I shouldn't be doing it either. And here's why. My family has suffered with this. This is not something that you should do. And thank you for calling me out on it. And I'm going to be better." I'm like, when do we get to see that in that kind of way? I thought it was so beautiful and so powerful that that was able to happen because, and this is another reason why I think as actors it's important not to judge your characters and the reason why they do things, because I mean, I don't, Emayatzy doesn't smoke, but my mom did smoke, and so I know what that looks like. I know how to do it. You know what I mean? Because my mom did smoke. But because I have such a particular feeling about people who do smoke, it could strike me as, you know what, I don't even know if I want to, glorify smoking or what have you. I don't even know if I want to do that's not the route I want to go. But that's the gift of being an actor, because and when you get a show like this where you have a character who gets to be so multi-layered, you get to play out the full story. Yeah, you see her smoking and all of this, but then you get to see why she's doing it and why she shouldn't be doing it, and her taking accountability for it. And you get to see a character make a full circle growth transition. And that's the gift that you get when you don't judge your characters and the reason why why they do what they do.
Definitely. Well, two of the biggest themes throughout the season have also been, obviously, this, I feel like it's a game of who done it, you know, with who killed, the husband of your friend. And obviously I have my thing, first I was like, the other friend seems to be on edge. Maybe she did it. She walked in and maybe she helped her and they're just keeping the secret. But then I was like, last episode, I was like, no, I don't think that's it. And I know you can't tell me, but I'm starting to think one of her children did it. I'm
Mm.
starting to think that. And so, I know this is gonna come full circle. I think without you obviously telling us it, my question to you is, well, here's the thing. We know she didn't do it, right? Because she's already said, I've been holding it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's someone else.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it says about that character that they would go to that lengths? Because if you know you didn't do it, but you're gonna protect someone else, what do you think that says about that particular character, your friend who's on trial for murder? That she would
Right.
go to this lengths
She a
to hold
real
it.
one. She a real one, right? I mean, she a real one. If she knows that she didn't do it, but she's willing to protect someone who's deserving of that level
Mm,
of just sacrifice that she's
mm-hmm.
making. It says a lot. It says a lot. Some people wouldn't be able to do that. They'd be, as we call it, snitching in a minute. So
Yeah, 25 years to life, and you got to sit there and know you didn't do it. So I
right.
definitely think it says something about our character that whoever this
Mm-hmm.
is, they're worth that sacrifice.
Right.
Your colleague Morris B. Chestnut, who I know you've worked with before. I know he's in this season. Obviously, we're hoping there's a third season. We don't know if he'll be a part of the third season, if there's a third season, but we're enjoying him this season. um, you know, it's interesting because the first thing I noticed, they treated him a little differently with being the male lawyer, and they even showed some scenes of kind of like the good old boys club with them
Mm-hmm.
kind of hanging out without you, but with them. And there was a moment where you checked him like, can we be? Can we just root for each other and not go against each other? Tell us a little bit more about that scene.
Yeah, man, I feel like that was a necessary scene. I remember when I read it in the script, I said, okay, there has to be an opportunity for her to really just kind of confront him, because by the time we get to that point, we know that he's had discussions, with the partners about her. And that's just not gonna work. You know what I mean? That's not gonna work. And so she knew that she was gonna have to have a conversation with him. And I love that it took place, at the scene of the crime, as she said. It didn't happen in the office or anything. She's gonna, meet you where you're at, and
Right.
we're gonna get this together right now. Because at the end of the day, she's like, this is my firm. You're here, because I brought you in. What you're not going to do is leave here, and try to leave things worse than when you came, before you came. So she knew she had to nip that in the bud. And I think that was a really great scene. That was a really great scene.
Now tell us, what is next for you? If you can tell us something. Sometimes I know projects are still under works, but if there's something that you can tell us, obviously we're praying there's another season of Reasonable Doubt. Is there anything else we should be on the lookout for?
Well, there definitely will be. Our team, my team, we are trying to find the right thing. There's a couple things that have come up, but it has to be the right thing. So yeah, so I will make sure that everyone knows about it as soon as it
Yes, yes.
really
They can. Now,
firms
where
up.
can everyone find you on social media so they can keep up with you? Because you have such a fancy name. Is it the full name on social media?
Is it my full name? It is. It is. It's Emayatzy Corinealdi, because yeah,
Okay, is
when
it?
they finally made me get on Instagram, they were like, "Okay, girl, stop. You get on here." By the time I got on there, someone already had my name. I'm like, how you do that? So yes, it's Emayatzy Corinealdi on
Oh,
Instagram. Yeah.
okay, great, great. So people can follow you there for all the updates and what next. And like I said, we are excited to tune into the season finale this week,
Yes.
obviously, and get all the fan feedback. I don't know if you or Carrie will be tweeting in real. I know sometimes she tweets in real time the show. So we just can't wait to hear finally get the mystery of who done it out of the way. And we appreciate everything you've done as, representing another Black TV lawyer in this space. We end each episode with the Black Excellence Moment of the Week. And so one of your producers, Carrie Washington, she has actually invested, speaking of social media, in a new Black owned social media platform called Spill,
Mm.
which is very similar to Twitter, but it has like video chats and things like that. And so we always love to see um, women in these spaces, and women also buying into things that are Black owned, especially in the tech space, because just
Hmm.
like the legal and the medical space are not really filled with women, the tech space are not. I can probably name on one hand how many women in tech, especially
Yeah.
in the Black space. So she is our Black Excellence Moment of the week. So salute to Carrie for investing
Yes.
in that company. That's amazing. And again, we just appreciate you taking the time. You are a very, very, very busy person. We look forward to watching the season finale. And obviously, we look forward to seeing you in your upcoming projects. And as always, we're rooting for everyone Black. Take care, everyone.